while everybody has some time to tune in. But we saw a lot of people in the waiting room. We're also live streaming this on YouTube. Before the question even comes up, are we going to share a recording of this? Yes, there's a recording of this in our Startup Club channel. Just search for Startup Club on YouTube and you'll find all of our webinars and a bunch of some other pretty good materials. So let's talk about financial modeling today. I hate the term financial modeling. The reason why you're here is maybe because one of your investors asked for a pro forma template, or you're looking to do a revenue estimation or a budgeting sheet. Maybe you've heard of a P&L statement or profit and loss. For whatever of these reasons, like we're gonna answer your questions, or I mean, we're gonna cover what that is all about. And in the end, the ultimate answer to it is that it's a financial model. That's what you're talking about. But I just don't like the term. It feels like so finance bro, so advanced when in reality it's just like a simple budgeting sheet. So hopefully I can give you all the tools. We have a bunch of free templates you'll have access to. But anyway, yeah. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to start with the common problems, the most common problems we see with financial modeling. The main issue. I mean, the main issue we see is that founders end up doing this as a homework rather than using it to run their businesses. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about our approach to this, which is what we call driver-based financial modeling. Now, we didn't make this up. We didn't invent this. There's no patent on it. It's just I think, a better approach. And there's no better name for it than driver-based modeling, but that is a mouthful. And again, it sounds more complicated than it actually is. Then the cool part is that we're going to model a sample company. So we're actually going to build a small financial model for one of your companies during today's hour. And maybe that's a good proof. The best proof I can give you that this is not as complicated as it seems, and we'll be able to kind of wrap it up and do an actual spreadsheet and run some scenarios and run some projections within the scope of today's hour. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A on Zoom or drop them in the chat in the YouTube stream. I will go through them at the very end. And then for all the companies around, like I said, or all the companies on the Zoom webinar, we're actually gonna bring one of you guys up to speak. You'll tell us about your business and we'll model it. Like we'll build a financial model around it. So if just to run a quick survey, like what type of business are you running? And you can drop this in the chat, in the webinar chat. So let me give you 4 categories of business. We'll say SaaS or software service, subscription service, even if it's not software. So we have subscription, that's one. We have marketplaces, kind of like one-way or two-way marketplaces. 3, let's say e-commerce, and 4, let's say like a mobile app with kind of like a usage-based revenue model. Drop this in the chat. I'll do a little little kind of survey review through the session and see how many people we get from each one, and we'll kind of pick one company that sort of relates to what everybody else said. We normally get a good mix, but we'll see about today. Okay, so let's go with common problems. Sorry, first commercial. And the only reason why we do this is, because this is what we do. This is what our company does, Slidebean. We've helped companies raise over $300 million in venture capital over the last 18 months. And by no means do we take credit for that. What we do is we help companies prepare their documentation, prepare their pitch deck, prepare their financials. But the credit to closing a round goes 99% to the founder. Maybe we'll take 1% of it, but by no means think that we're claiming that's our success. We're just going to help you guys wrap your stories or answer these questions before the investors bring them up. Okay. So common problems on financial models, and let me give me a hopefully none of you are sinners in these issues, but we'll see. So first common problem we see is when you put that on a pitch deck, you guys have like this random arbitrary number. It's like a perfectly round number, like, well, we're raising $1 million, we're raising $10 million. Even worse, we're raising between, I saw, this is a true story, I saw this the other day. Company was raising between, I think it was between $5 and $20 million. And like, what? That's just such an insane range. You obviously don't understand how much money you actually need, so you're just giving us a range. That's usually a red flag or a show that you guys haven't done the homework on the round size. Next up is growth projections are just assuming this 10% skyrocketing exponential month-over-month growth. Super common problem. A founder didn't really do the homework. They don't understand what's going to drive their growth. They just said, hey, yeah, we're going to grow 10% month over month. That's it. Done. That's the assumption. And they'll put that on a pitch deck. We see it all the time. And then the other big problem, and this happened to us, and I'll talk a little bit about that experience, is just focusing on raising money for a certain amount of time rather than to reach a specific milestone. Funding in startups happens between milestones. You raise money at the pre-seed milestone and you raise money at the seed milestone. And every time you raise money, you need to make sure that that money lasts until your next milestone. You don't want to be stuck in the middle. Again, happened to us. I'll tell you a bit about that in a sec. And again, the answer to that is something that can look like this. You have a nice budgeting sheet that gives you your runway and your forecast and months to reach profitability and so on. But we're not going to touch this. We're not going to do anything about this sheet for now. We first need to understand some very, very basic concepts. So let's start there. Okay. So let's do a little survey test on everyone. I'm reading you guys on the Zoom chat, by the way. Big task. What's up? Remember you from last week's. Okay, so how much money should you guys be raising for seed? I'll give you some time to answer. A, 18 months of runway. B, whatever it takes to reach the next funding round. Or C, enough to launch the product. Let's see if you've been paying attention. Any takers? I take a C, enough to launch the product. A B, and a bunch of Bs and a bunch of Cs. No A's so far. Let's see if anybody takes that bet on the A. Okay, so I'll give you the first hint. It's not C. The reason why it's not C is because a pre-seed round is a round that you normally raise when you don't have a product, when you're building your MVP, in the process of building it, and you're raising that money to launch a product, and to get some early revenue, get some proof that this product works, that people like your product, that people like the service, and then go out and raise a seed round. So the seed round, at least in software, happens when you've launched a product. So it can't be C, because that would be a pre-seed round. And even in the pre-seed round, that'd be wrong, because if you just raise enough money to launch the product, but you don't have any money left to actually market that product, you could get stuck in the middle, right? You could get stuck in this limbo. And it's hey, you raised the pre-seed, you launched the product, but that product has no traction, so you don't have what it takes to raise the next round. So you don't want that to happen to you. So I think C is never the answer for any round. Wrong answer. Okay, so let's talk about A. So you normally hear this a lot, right? In startups and in blogs and startup materials. You want to raise about 18 to 24 months of runway. That's not entirely incorrect. You normally want to raise at least 18 months of runway, probably something from 18 to 24 months. But that's not the milestone. The milestone is not, hey, we're raising 18 months of runway. That's it. And we'll raise money again in 2 years regardless. Right. The correct answer is B, because it's whatever it takes to reach the next funding round. Yes. Right. So if you're a seed company, in this case, this trivia question, if you're a seed company, then you're raising enough money to get to Series A. Now, you should get to Series A in about 18 months. That's about right. But the objective of the round and the budget of the round should be around reaching that Series A milestone rather than rather than just time, rather than just months. Like I said, this happened to us. We raised the seed round of about $1 million, and then we ran out of money halfway through. We had about $1 million in annual run rate, so $1 million worth of subscriptions. Started going to investors for our Series A, and they all said, no, you're not a Series A company yet. $1 million is not a Series A company. $1 million ARR is not Series A level. It's not Series A stage. You should be raising, you should be on $2 million in ARR. So no worries, come back to us when you have $2 million in ARR. It sounds like an exciting product, and we'll chat. And I'm like, well, I don't have money to get to 2 million in ARR. Again, problem there was we raised 18 months of runway. We didn't raise for the milestone, right? So don't let that happen to you. It sucked. Okay, so let's talk about projections now. Revenue and forecasts. Now, we've established now that when you raise money to get to a milestone. So we're going from point A to point B, and point B is a milestone. Maybe it's around next round of funding, maybe it's a revenue goal, maybe it's profitability, maybe it's an exit. And as you navigate through that, as you get there, you're hopefully going to have revenue, right? That's green and that's positive. And you're probably or definitely going to have expenses, right? So that's blue or red at the bottom. We'll talk about what those mean in a sec. But overall, it looks at a chart like this. Now, for early stage companies, the bottom bars are usually taller, higher than the top bars, because you're spending more money that you're generating. But the sum of both of those things give you a profit margin, and that's essentially how you operate. Now, the question is, what is the driver of this growth? What is going to drive your revenue, and what is going to drive your expenses? What most companies do, and it's wrong, is they come up with something like this. That they say, oh yeah, we're going to generate $700 when we launch, and then that's just going to grow 10% month over month. If you draw that on a spreadsheet, you just take the previous month and turn it by 110%. And if you plot that into a chart, it's going to look like this. And I see these all the time. I've seen this from experienced founders, to be honest. It's just a hockey stick, and it's beautiful. Like, it looks very pretty on a financial model. But I see this hockey stick chart, and what I immediately infer is, oh, they're just using a 10% multiplier, or 7%, whatever multiplier. It's going to be an exponential thing. Doesn't work. Red flag. That's not how you forecast your rounds of funding. So please don't do that. Again, the question is, what is the driver of your orders? And in this case, I say orders, but we might be referring to the driver of your traffic, or the driver of your subscriptions, or the driver of your monthly active users, or your drivers, or your writers. Okay. And then on the other side, these orders, this extra revenue is going to drive some other things, right? So the more orders you have, the more fulfillment costs you have, the more hosting costs you have, the more support staff. Maybe you need account managers for your customers. So there's a cause and effect. There's a causality to the revenue from what causes revenue to the effects that revenue causes. And probably the best way to look at it is with what we call, not patent pending, but nobody calls it this, so I guess it's a thing now. What we call financial model maps. So financial model map, think of it as a simple flowchart that just tells anybody how a business, like it's mapping a business on paper, right? So in theory, like we said, revenue drives costs. Now, in this case, the first term I'll teach you is COGS. That's cost of goods sold. It's an accounting term for everything that's a cost, right? If you have a t-shirt e-commerce and you sell t-shirts, revenue is revenue, and then for every t-shirt you sell, you have to buy a t-shirt, you have to print the t-shirt, you have to ship the t-shirt. All those are costs. And any way you slice it, whatever happens to your business, that cost is always going to be there, because that's literally the cost of providing your revenue, right? So it scales almost proportionally or almost directly alongside your revenue. So there's a cost and effect situation between revenue and costs. But again, the bigger question was, well, what causes revenue? What revenue is not the driver. It's not 10% revenue growth. There is something that drives your revenue growth. What is that? And that's, if you get anything out of today's session, is this, screenshot it if you want to steal it. It's this, like, what are the drivers of your revenue? So I'm going to give you a few examples. A potential driver of revenue could be your paid marketing campaigns, right? So you're doing search, you're doing display ads, retargeting, influencer marketing probably fits here as well. So you're doing paid ads. On the other hand, you could have outbound sales. So maybe you're a B2B enterprise type of platform. You need business development, a business development team, or maybe you're doing cold outreach, cold emails. That's a cost. You have to pay for this regardless, and that might drive revenue. Another potential cost is organic traffic. Not a cost, sorry, a driver. Organic traffic. So that'd be word of mouth, that'd be SEO, that'd be just people referring other customers to your platform. Just what we like to group into organic traffic, just organic signups. PR could be a driver of organic signups too. And then last but not least, returning customers, right? So maybe some customer bought something and they'll come back 2 months later and buy something else. So that's a driver. You want to understand that, because that is, in the end, there's a causality to it, to your revenue. And again, all of these might drive revenue, but they're not created equal. These two at the very top have a direct cost associated to them, right? So organic traffic, if you have an SEO team, that SEO team might be really efficient, and they might be just growing. They might be scaling your organic traffic every month because they just get better at it. And the cost of your team doesn't change, right? So that's a fixed cost that you have to spend that drives something that scales, right? So the driver is the traffic, and you want to understand it, or put it a different way. You have an SEO team, and then you double your SEO team. Does that double your traffic? No, because SEO doesn't work like that. On the contrary, paid marketing is a direct dollar proportion to effectiveness, right? If you double your marketing budget and you have a more or less fixed cost per click or cost per acquisition, you should double your acquisitions. It's a direct correlation. So those will paint blue for now. I'll explain this in a sec. And again, we think of all of these as potential drivers to revenue. So again, the key thing, and this is another slide that you want to screenshot if you want. The key thing and the key takeaway that I want you guys to take from this is you want to understand what your drivers are. If you understand what your drivers are, what's the causality of your revenue, all of this financial modeling stuff is going to come super easy. Really, it's going to be super easy. It's really just a matter of connecting formulas now. But kind of extracting or abstracting your business and what the drivers are to a flow chart like this, that's the I don't even want to say the hard part, but that's the crucial part. So please, that's if you forget everything I've said today, just remember that. Okay. So before we do that, and we're almost ready to get it ready to actually build one of these, we're gonna say, yeah, just some color coding. So we have revenue, green, costs, the dollar bills. We have cost of goods sold, so that's red. Slidebean red, we'll call it, which is really like a magenta, but okay. Cost of goods sold, again, anything that you have to spend in order to generate revenue, or that you spend because you generate revenue, really, that would be a cost. Then we have blue, which is SG&A. Some people call that OpEx or operational expenses. That's another category. And the last one might be capital expenditures, which are expenses that aren't directly an expense. Like if you buy a car for the company, if you actually buy a car, it's not a $50,000 expense. It's really an asset that the company still owns. It depreciates. It works a little different. We rarely have to work on this in startups. We do sometimes, but yeah, usually not very important for today's session. Okay. And now this is an example of a model. So I've seen some of your answers as they came up. I saw a lot of mobile apps. I saw some SaaS, I think, is the winner. But as a treat to the e-commerce guys, I have a model map for an e-commerce company out here. So while I walk you through this, since SaaS was the most popular choice, you guys with the SaaS company, do you want to give me like a 1 or 2 line pitch of what you guys do? Again, I'm not playing favorites. I just want to pick a company that feels like a standard enough subscription business that can hopefully give guidance to many of you guys. So just type it in the chat. Throw your elevator pitch in the chat, and we'll pick one. In the meantime, let me walk you through this map. This is an e-commerce map, and we have these for download. You can screenshot it, but I'll show you where you can download them in a sec. This is a model map, like a flow chart for an e-commerce company. So let's look at the drivers, right? So the drivers here are paid traffic at the very top and organic traffic, 2 drivers. One is a direct cost. It's blue, right? It's paid traffic. The more dollars we have to spend, we have a cost of acquisition that converts that to orders. And then we have organic traffic. We assume that we're going to do some SEO, some social media, and that's going to drive through our conversion rate. This organic traffic, we're going to generate orders. I'm going to skip this section now at the bottom for now, but I want to go over here to orders, right? So we see that orders from new customers adds up to the total number of orders. And to us, an order means a lot of things. An order means a fulfillment cost. So for every order we have to ship, right? So that's a red box. It's tied to the number of orders. And again, for every order we generate revenue, right? The average order size, product markup. And then for every revenue that we generate, we also have to deal with the product costs, right? So, maybe based on a margin, we can say that every $100 that we sell of product, it normally costs us $40 to manufacture. And that's our markup or our product margin. So that's at the very simple on e-commerce. Now, the slightly complicated part here is that we can also assume that some of these orders become regular customers, right? So the orders from new customers, a percentage of them become regulars. And then therefore they make repeat purchases. They come back every month or every couple months and make another purchase. So when we deal with orders, we are adding both the orders from new customers and the orders from regular customers so that we get to the total number of orders. But that is, in essence, an e-commerce business, right? A simple model map of an e-commerce business. Again, we have a template for this. We could screenshot this by all means, but today we're gonna build one. We're gonna build one from scratch. So I see some of your pitches. Airlines could order aircrafts from us. That's a little bit complicated. Selling planes, maybe a bit not general enough. At Rental-Link, we offer software solutions for property managers and landlords to handle tasks efficiently, and pricing based on a per unit model. Okay, that could work. Pet data stores, storing pet owner data, allowing them to share with pet B2B providers. SaaS platform in healthcare with AI-powered solutions that seamlessly connect patients and professionals with your healthcare ecosystem. Good pitches, good stuff, guys. You guys are working on a tool for lawyers to automate workflow, basically ChatGPT for lawyers. Uh, and Arbo, a SaaS platform redefining healthcare. Okay, oh yeah, I'll read about that. I want to say, that let's try the AI tool for lawyers. That seems standard enough. Let's see if it's something that, again, I'm trying to find something that hopefully works for everyone. So, do you want to raise your hand? I see that you're on your email, Jatar, I think. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. And we'll bring you up.
Hey,
Hey, Jatar, how are you?
good.
Do you want to tell me a little bit more about your business? Let me see if we can work on mapping it.
Yeah, so basically, I want to build something like ChatGPT for lawyers, like I said. But the model would be trained our custom model, and it would be trained on the specific Indian laws. So I'm in India, so I want to build something that's more or less like Indian lawyers could use to basically to do legal research or document drafting, case predictions, things like that.
Okay. How do you charge these guys on a subscription?
Yeah, we are like we're currently in the stage of building the model right now, but yeah, there'll be a subscription services based and pay as you go per amount of tokens you use.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's just to keep it simple and again to make it work for everyone. I think we can go with a subscription maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
let's model the subscription part. But yeah, let's do it. Okay. So I have some stuff ready. So there's a template that we're going to use. This is the spreadsheet version, the spreadsheet part, and this is the sort of like flow chart part. They're both in here. So you can download the template, the financial model state from our website. Here's the model map where we have a little video on it, and we have a mirror board like this. This is a mirror board that you can duplicate and create a model from. So this is all free, so please take advantage of it. Okay, sorry, Jatara, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, kind of.
Do you want to correct me?
No, it's pretty much okay, but yeah, it's just some like the accents, maybe the accent, yeah,
All right, that's fine. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. What's the name of the company?
you're good. It's Synlex,
Come on.
Synlex Intelligence, Synlex Intelligence,
So like
SYNLEX.
LEX selects intelligence. Okay. And so you said you're targeting law firms. So let's start with a KPI item. So this is law firms that pay you. And what's how do you get law firms? Is it a marketing thing, or do you have to go and sell to them?
Uh, right now I have enough lawyer friends and enough network with the lawyers so that I can sell them to them directly. But in the future, I'm looking to for referrals and things like that.
Okay. Let's not think, for the model, let's think like at scale, right? So obviously you're going to start with people that you know, but at scale, how is this going to work? Are you going to have a sales force that's going to be going knocking on these doors? Are you going to have marketing and they're just going to sign up on their own? What do you think?
Uh, Salesforce and a marketing campaign online.
I would, I think a fair point here is, and I normally tell this to companies, like let's think of a platform that you buy through sales, or let's think of a platform that you buy through marketing. I don't know. Hmm. Let's say Facebook ads or Instagram ads, right? That's a self-service thing. Facebook, because people use Facebook or because they advertise that for marketing. Uh, you go and you sign up on your own and you do everything yourself and you go and you run your ads. It would not be very sustainable for Facebook to assume that they're going to grow by hiring people that's going to go to every business and pitch them on Facebook ads, right? Because that's unsustainable. The value of
Yeah.
the revenue per customer is usually not enough. That they only implement that once you start spending up to a certain degree, and then they bring in an account manager type of persona. So to me, it's usually weird that a company says that they're going to have sales and marketing, because I think usually it's one or the other for a certain type of company. Let me take it back. Let's take a step back. How big is the law firm that you would target?
So there are like 2 or 3 plans. So right now we are only offering it to small law firms which are only have like 5 employees.
Okay,
So the plan,
let me stop there.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
start with that just to keep it simple. So small law firms, that's the first plan. How much is that? What's the revenue?
It's around $100 a month.
Okay. Let's call it small, base plan, which is $100 a month. And and you said that these law firms are about 5 people?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So here's a question. If you, I mean, assuming this is the plan, right? So you have $100 a month base plan. That means that annually you would make $1,200 from this customer for each one of these customers. So if you do this through a sales team, your margins are going to be really small because you're essentially paying a salary to someone. They're going to bring maybe a few customers. How many customers can a person bring if they're just doing sales? Probably 1, 2, maybe 5. Uh, and that means that based on the cost of having this person sitting on your platform, sitting on your desk, and the revenue you would make from them, the margins wouldn't be too great. So normally products in this price range need to, I mean, it's not that they want to do marketing. It's that marketing is the only way in which they can bring customers sustainably. Does that make sense?
Uh, I, it makes sense from your perspective, but I'm in India, so the salary in India is like $300 a month for a good sales person. So it makes sense for if you're sitting in the States, but not in India. So yeah, I get your point.
Okay. Let's let's I mean, let me just, with the new information, let me ask you again. What is your core source of revenue? Is it marketing or is it sales?
Uh, for what I have planned is basically for the next 18 to 20 months, we would be mostly focusing on business acquisition through salespeople because we want to
Okay.
build our reputation through that, and then we want to shift to marketing.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other point there is, um, some platforms, some services just can't be sold through marketing, right? If you take an example of uh, like a very specialized tool that needs to integrate deeply into the platform, like somebody needs to sell it, right? Somebody needs to go on a call, convince somebody to buy it. Um, that's that doesn't apply to marketing, right? Like an example, you sign up, people sign up for Netflix, they sign up for Buffer on their own. But if you're kind of selling, I see Med Clinic hardware, if you're selling stuff to clinics, like there's no way around a salesperson, right? You need to deal with that. So in this
Yeah.
case, let's say, okay, sales organization, and we're going to have sales per agent, which gives us the number of law firms, and then this is the average conversion rate. Yeah, I'm sorry, the average revenue. Okay, let's actually build this into a model. Again, it's a very simple one, but one that we can use as a head start. So give me just a sec to pull this up. And yeah, I'll give you guys access. Like, what I want to do is I want to give you guys access to the sheet if you want to follow the way I use it. You won't be able to download this version. If you want to download it, you should use the link that my team pasted in the chat, but I'll paste the link. So here's a link to the map. It's a pretty straightforward. It's a pretty simple map, but if you want to review it, here you go. And let's actually get into the model now, which I lost. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna put both of these side by side, and then we'll be able to see both. Okay, so here's the map and here's the model. Okay, so the model, the financial model template that we have, again, this is free to download. We've thrown it around. We've thrown the link a couple times. It pretty much has everything connected to it. So we have, for example, we have revenue sheet, and if I go and use any of these revenue lines, and I add something here, I add $1,000 or some revenue, right? That's added to the total revenue count, and then that's all consolidated in our income statement and everything. So, and taxes are estimated, your estimated tax, but like everything happens just by plugging in the numbers. The general rule in this spreadsheet is that numbers that are black are formula results. That means they're coming from somewhere else, so you normally don't want to be changing them. numbers that are blue are inputs, so you can use them to run your own estimation. So if I go to the SG&A, for example, and I go and add some expenses. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Get rid of this protection. Sorry. That's weird. I remember doing this. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if I go and add some marketing campaigns and whatnot, some expenses, yeah, they're all, I just add anything here. These are blue numbers, and they're all going to be added up to the total, right? So anything that I plug into blue numbers essentially connects and lands where it needs to go, all the way up to giving you your profit margins, your tax estimations for the monthly and for the annual, right? So that's all happening automatically. That's the already done part. You don't need to do it again. Just use the templates that exist. Okay. But now, like, this, of course, doesn't have what we need. So let's start with the team. So Yatar, we have a team, we have this sales organization. So when do you expect to launch this, would you say?
Next week.
Next week. Okay, that's good. And how are you going to scale that sales team? I highlighted here green. Maybe make this a little bigger if it's maybe too small for you guys. So you're saying that this is a fairly cheap team for you. So that's $3,600 a year. I'm going to round that to 4,000, let's say. There's some room for taxes and benefits and so on, but you're launching this next week. So let's say that that's going to launch in September. Now, how are you going to scale this sales organization? How big is your team going to be?
Right now we're only 3 people in the team, including me for the sales team. And for scaling, I'm thinking of bringing more, like, say, 10 more people.
Okay. How often are you hiring? Like, are you hiring them all at once or?
Generally, yeah. There's a hiring agency that can basically give us all 10 people at the same time. So yeah.
Okay. Do you plan to stay at 10, or do you pretend to scale that as you grow?
Scale as growing.
Okay. How big do you think this sales organization is going to be at the end, years from now, like 5 years from now? How big is your sales organization?
I wanted to be at 100, but yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, we'll see. We'll find out. Okay. So we have a sales team of 10 people, and let's say that every quarter or yeah, every year we're gonna add something like 10 maybe, and then we're gonna cap that at 100 people. So again, this is a simple staff dashboard, but if you go to the SG&A sheet, we'll notice that the headcount here is starting to scale, right? So we're starting with 10 people in September. I mean, we're already halfway through September, so maybe if we want to be fair, we'll say this actually starts in October. So we'll say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on, 70, right? So I want to make sure that most of our viewers are in parts of the world where a salesperson doesn't cost $300. So, just to this, I'm going to add a 0 here so that this kind of relates maybe a little bit to everyone's a little bit more generic. So like, I'm going to add a 0 to everything in terms of costs, right? That way we'll kind of adapt it to the rest of the world. But yeah, essentially what we have here is this sales force, and that automatically is scaling in terms of payroll. For you, Yatar, this is $3,500 a month and scaling and so on. Okay, so now we have a team, right? Now here in the headcount, we've essentially established that this line here, called the senior sales people, this is going to be our driver, just like we had here. That's the sales organization driver. And now we're going to estimate how many law firms they get on a sales per agent. So I'm going to do that in assumptions. Assumptions is a good sheet to work on it. Let me get rid of this advertising and say, okay, for every, we're going to say sales new law firms per agent. How many new law firms do you expect an agent will bring, Jatar?
Per month, maybe 7 to 12.
Okay, let's maybe set it to 10. Now, this is a lot. That means that essentially each sales agent is selling a new company every other day. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. How are they doing? Are they calling? Are they emailing?
We have like a leads, like a lead database for like around 1,000 law firms in India. So through calling them and basically using that lead sheet.
Okay. Okay. Now we have a subscription. Again, we're kind of adapting this to the rest of the world. So we're adding a 0. You were charging 100. Now we're going to set it to 1,000. So again, so we make that same adaptation and see what happens. we have a subscription, and then we have a churn rate. So every subscription plan must have a churn rate. There's an assumption that some people will just cancel the service eventually. So, really, really good low churn rate could be 2. A pretty high dangerous churn rate probably would be 15. I'm gonna set it to something like 8% just to see what happens. And these are all the variables that we need, right? So we have conversion rate to sales, and that's going to give us law firms, and then law firms to revenue that gives us plan, and we're accounting for churn here. So all we really need to do now is connect a couple of numbers, and we'll see what happens. So we're gonna go to revenue. We're gonna say that this is called like the small law firms subscription, right? And now we're gonna have to estimate how many law firms do we have, right? So every month we're gonna convert some new clients, and that's gonna be based, we said, based on the sales agents that we had, right? So the number of new clients every month is a simple, very simple multiplication, where we take the number of agents that we have in a given month, and then we multiply that by the new law firms that each agent brings per month, right? We drag that formula along. We have 600 that, at the peak of this, when we have a huge sales force, I think it was like 60, 70 people at the very end, we're going to end up with 100, 200, 300 people. Okay. So next up, we're going to have to find like how many we have total, right? Because this is a subscription. It's not just a one-time payment. So we're going to have total clients. We're going to have lost clients and total clients. I'm going to solve lost in a sec, but the easiest one to solve is total. We can make it bold or something so we can tell it apart. But total clients will be something like the sum of the new clients plus the clients that we have last month minus the clients that we lost, right? So that should be a simple operation where we have 100 people, and then we add another 100 people, so we have 200 people, and then 300 people, and so on. But again, we might lose some clients because there's churn. So we're going to take the total number of clients and multiply that by the churn rate, and that's going to give us the number of people that we lost. Now that's done. This one won't work because it's the first month. It's trying to multiply a dollar sign, so the first month in churn doesn't really apply. And then that's, whoops, I got the wrong formula. And then that's that, right? So that gives us a total number of clients based on churn. There's probably a decimal here because the churn values may be giving us some decimals on that 8%. So we can round it. So we can say, I'm going to make this bigger for you guys. Maybe too small. There we go. Hopefully that helps. There. Okay. Yeah. So we want to round this. So we want to round the totals. Make sure that we have an integer. Great. Okay. So now from clients, each client is paying us $100 a month, right? So the revenue from these clients, the MRR, is really going to be just the number of clients times our revenue per client, which is, well, we've adapted that to 1,000. 1,000. That's that. And then we make, since this, notice that this number used to be blue, but now it's a formula, right? So we don't longer control, this is no longer an input. We no longer control this number from here. So we want to turn that black. Okay. So at the very core, we've modeled this company, right? There's stuff missing, but we've modeled the main revenue line for this business, at least as it was described, where we have, again, we're adapting this 1-0 over Jatar. And so, in this case, what we're seeing here is that the model would be profitable, right? We're saying that if each agent brings 10 people, we can hire the 60 agents and that would still work out. Some things to look at, Jatar, is that your assumption here is that at the end of this model, you're going to have 7,000 clients, and you will have converted 27,000 people over the course of the entire session. So I don't know India is a huge country, but you sometimes want to run that check to see if the number of people that you converted is feasible, right? Sometimes I see models where you assume that people assume they're converting 2 billion people, and then you'd have to be converting children in order to make that work, right? So that's one good take. again, Jatar, kind of adapting this to back to your own numbers. So $100 subscription on a $4,000 a year salary, right? So just scaling that to just 1 0. What happens here is that at that level, this becomes a $8 million company, very profitable, at least against your cost of sales, but not necessarily a venture backable business, right? Investors are looking to usually invest in companies that are going to grow to the tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So obviously it's not the same to sell a $100 a month subscription than to sell $1,000 a month subscription. So there's some translation needed in that number. But for everyone else, this is at the core, a model. Now, one thing that happens is that this team, of course, I guess Jatar, maybe I'll ask you, like, are you ready to sell, or how, or just product? Is there more product building needed? Are you actually ready to sell next month?
Yeah, we are ready to sell next month, but right now the next week launch is basically for 10 law firms who are already our customers, like early adopters, let's say, who are willing to try it out and give us feedback for, let's say, 2 weeks, and then we wanna roll it out in October for
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah. And I guess the other question, one thing that we didn't add here is that any service, any platform has costs, right? So in this case, what do you expect your server fees to be per customer?
Uh,
Your
I don't have it per customer, but I have a rough idea for AWS fees per month. It would be around 2000 rupee, 2000 USD.
Okay. So again, that's a flat. I wouldn't say that servers are usually flat. Normally, your servers are going to scale alongside your usage, right? So the more customers you have, the more server costs you have. So for example, in this case, if you're and we can add it here in assumptions, right, to this revenue line. So we'll say costs or hosting costs. Now, again, this is usually on a per customer, per client, in this case, per law firm. And then, let's say again, just for sake of example, that it's going to be $40 just on their, on their GPT fees or their API fees and whatnot. So we want to make sure that we add that. So here we can say server costs or hosting costs. And again, because we have that number, we have in revenue, we have the number of clients, right? So we can just take total clients times our assumptions of hosting costs and just drag that formula along. Sorry for my emojis. Oh my God, sorry. There you go. And now we've elaborated on that model here just to have an assumption of cost. Now, for everybody else, of course, the extension of this is, well, we've only really just added the payroll for the sales team. At least we've proven, I mean, with these bases, we've proven that the business is profitable. The business makes sense. The cost of acquisition against the customer cost makes sense. Now the question is, well, will everything else make sense, right? Once we add, the cost of the rest of the team, the CEO, the engineers, the taxes and all that, will this still translate to a profitable model? But the message that I wanted to relay, and now I want to jump back into questions. The message I wanted to relay is it's not that hard, all right? It's just simple multiplications and easy divisions from one sheet to the other. The big, very important thing is we need to understand this, right? What is a driver? What is a conversion rate? What is a driver? What does it drive? And how much does that driver cost? And if you do that, you're going to end up with a model that just makes sense to answer. Okay. Desire, thanks a lot for giving us your company to pick on as an example. I wanna go to questions. Not before we've done the map. We've looked at the spreadsheet, and I'm happy to look at it again. You guys have the link. Just the last commercial before I jump to your questions. Like literally what we've been doing is financial modeling. It's not as hard as it seems. We do a boot camp every month to kind of teach you guys, consider that like a long 5-hour version, like really like a 10-hour version of the last 20 minutes, where we actually go through the process. We build your models. We give you all the tools. We give you all the templates that we have And we kind of help you through it. So normally it consists of 5 hours or 1 hour a day of pre-recorded content and 1 hour a day of a live session, just like this one. And again, that's happening next week. So if you want to tune in for that and kind of elaborate on your spreadsheet skills, good chance to do it. And again, we spend even some time kind of going through financing options, how to estimate how much money you would need to raise, budgeting, making sure that you don't fall behind, that you don't get stuck between pre-seed and seed or between seed and Series A like it happened to us, but that you can actually estimate the right amount of money that you need to get to the other end. So we do that. And then our team can also help build your model. So if you don't want to do it yourself, if you're not as spreadsheet savvy or you just don't have the time, we have a new service now that where our team takes over. We've built a little team of analysts or business analysts that can help you build a model. So we take the model, we update it for you every month against your actual. So we actually connect with your bookkeeping team and keep the model up to date with your actuals so that you can forecast not only based on your assumptions, but on your actual real historical KPIs once you start operating. And that goes for just $1.99 a month. And includes a bunch of other things, including sessions, one-on-one sessions with our pitch tech team and a bunch of other stuff. So that's my commercials. Now I will answer all your questions. So let's get to that. Okay. I see some of the webinar chat, but you definitely want to put your questions in the Q&A, and that way we can sort them out. And I see some questions on YouTube too, which I will get to. So I see first question, can we have a co-pilot AI to navigate the inputs required by the financial model so you don't have to touch the sheet? No, I don't think that AI is there yet. You can definitely, I don't think AI is there yet. You can definitely use historicals to run projections, but you have to understand what those historicals are. I think the day that an AI model understands how to run maps, how to abstract a company into a map, we're all out of business. But up until the day, that's the human part. Okay, I'll take one from YouTube now. I'll see Eric. I have a brilliant idea that I've been working on, but I'm at disadvantage to where I find myself. How would I be glad your help? Maybe take a look at some of our plans. Like, I'm happy to jump in, Eric, but that's a bit of an abstract question. I'll take Jordan. Jordan, I always recommend reverse engineering from your milestone. If you need X amount to reset milestone, then go backwards and see what hiring and spending needs and are required. Yep, that's actually very good advice. Great advice. Okay, I see. Lewis, do you need a financial model when raising a pre-seed round? Great question. I'll stop for a second on that one. Remember that we've established that funding rounds are supposed to get you from pre-seed to seed, right? So pre-seed, no product, no revenue, of course, no product, no revenue. You used to have an established team and you're maybe building an MVP and so on. And then seed funding, what's a seed round? Well, a seed round happens when the company has revenue, when they have some growth, when they have some customers. Normally in SaaS, for example, a seed round usually happens when the company is at maybe 20, 30, $50,000 in MRR, right? That's a proper seed round would happen. So how do you know how much money do you need to build your product, launch your product, and get to $40,000 in MRR? The only way to know that is by doing a budget. So, like I said, I hate the word financial model because do you need a financial model at pre-seed? Well, you need a budget at pre-seed. That's kind of the answer. You do, right? Because some of that money is not only going to your building part, which might be a year of building, engineers, salaries, computers, whatnot, servers, but it's also some money in understanding what your drivers are and doing some marketing and failing and marketing at the wrong thing, making mistakes and some cushion for all of that. Because you won't be able to raise money unless you get to seed. You won't be able to raise money again unless you get to seed. That's why a financial model is important, I think, for every funding round. Okay. I see Galliwango. I've been facing challenges with pricing recently. Some clients have been requesting a flat month subscription, but our financial model is based on a per unit per month. I'm wondering if it's worth considering the flat fee option. I don't want to sound too broken record today, but it's not an easy, but it should be a simple answer where you forecast one and you test out the cost per customer and so on, and then you forecast the other and compare to see if there's a financial question here, which is is a flat monthly fee feasible for you? Will you make more money or will you make less money? Financial questions. A spreadsheet is the answer. Yeah, hopefully I've given you some tools so you guys can kind of at least give it a shot and just model one and the other. Okay. So Pedro, if I have a SaaS with an average ticket of 220, is it correct to assume $20 per sign up and 5% conversion into a paid customer? That would mean a cost of acquisition of 400. Yeah, that would be correct. I'd say that a $20 sign up is average and a 5% conversion rate is pretty optimistic, but that would be an assumption. I mean, that'd be a correct cost of acquisition assumption of 400. Yep. Yeah, I saw somebody ask in the chat, I forgot, but they were asking about the template. So this template that you guys saw where I started working on is our free template. It's again, it's free for download. We give you guys the link. But what we also have are a few templates that are pre-built. I'll show you an example. This is the Wayne. I mean, this is the SaaS template. We just called it Wayne. So the SaaS model, and if you need it, you can just do Slidebean SaaS model. Yeah, that should give it to you in Google. Yeah, so the SaaS model, sorry, the pre-built SaaS model has all the assumptions there already. That's the difference, right? So remember on this sheet, this was empty, assumptions was empty, and we just added some stuff of our own. This one has a model map tied to it that has different options for you to estimate SaaS, either a bit of what I was talking about, either on a self-service marketing or inbound sales or outbound sales. So you have all of that. And those formulas are there already in assumptions. There's a good tutorial video as well on how it works, but it's essentially a built model. If your financials can match a standard SaaS, there's a pretty good chance that this will be enough, and you don't need to build it from scratch. Right. Let me take the next one. So for med clinics, Mike, for med clinics who have marketing restrictions, they mainly do pop-up clinic to drive new patients. It's extremely variable. Is it okay to set a basic percentage for the driver growth from month over month? Yeah, I mean, you can scale it a month over month. You can scale a driver month over month. Definitely. You can assume that there's going to be a growth in marketing budget, a growth in your outbound sales team, or you can assume that growth, but you want to make sure that the model is taking into account is what's the conversion rate, right? It's the dollars to customers conversion. And of course, that number should be feasible, should be realistic. And normally, the more money you spend, the more expensive your cost of acquisition gets. That's usually the way it happens. It's often a curve that goes like this, where you're spending a lot per customer at the very beginning. You optimize and you get really good at it, so your cost of acquisition goes down. But as you start scaling your spend, that starts to go up again. That's usually the way I've seen it. All right, Amir, for my industry, the most predictions are just on some assumptions. So for example, I can give some accurate assumptions for the next 24 months, like our projected monthly active users, and after that, it's just probabilities. So I was wondering if we can really predict 6 years from now, or to have a valuation for current investors that are turned to be convertible notes. This is a great point. So, the sheet that we have is a 7-year model. You don't need to forecast accurately for 7 years. I don't think so. My general rule of thumb is you should be very, very accurate about your next 2 years of forecasts. Why? Because that's what your funding round is going to fund. And if you're wrong about your next 2 years of forecasts, you might run out of money before you estimated it. Right? And that's bad. So that's why the next 2 years should be really, really accurate, both in terms of revenue and in terms of what your expenses are going to be. Ideally, you want to be forecasting for every little thing, right? From your computer breaking down to the light bulb that you need to change. So you want to forecast for that stuff so that you don't get any surprises. I mean, light bulbs are really cheap, but you get the point. So normally 2 years for very accurate forecasts in terms of who you hire, when you hire them, etc. That's normally useful. The next 3 years, so let's say that from year 3 to year 5, the reason why those forecasts are important is because they talk a little bit about kind of like your business vision, and for investors to see like how far are you scaling. I've seen cases, and maybe the case that we looked at today, was a company that scaled very quickly, was profitable, but at year 7 only had $7 million of revenue. That's not bad. I mean, it's a profitable business, but it's not a venture backable business, right? So the reason why you want to put some focus in your projections, from, say, from year 3 or year 5 or year 7, is because investors also want to see that you are being ambitious enough and there's room to grow this company that much. So my general rule of thumb is I spend 80% of my time on the next 2 years of forecasts, and I spend 20% of my time on the next years of forecasts. They're both important, and they both send a crucial message to the investor or whoever is evaluating your company. Do you need to raise money to scale even if you have enough to cover Series A? No, you don't need to raise money. Why? Yeah, no, you don't. Ideally, you don't want to raise money. Do you have a template for a creator economy business model like Patreon, for example, or would that also fall under SaaS? Maybe the marketplace, Lewis. The map of the marketplace model is on the website. You can navigate it. Maybe, I mean, there's a demo too. So maybe take a look at the inputs and see if you can adapt them. Like the marketplace model may work. I think the marketplace would fit. Yeah, would fit an Uber, or yeah, maybe. Just navigate it. I guess it depends on how you plan to monetize your creators, whether it's subscriptions or one-time purchases and so on. But it may work. It'd be the marketplace model, the one you wanna look at. And I see Waltz. I see some questions on YouTube. I'll get to those, I promise. For the Slidebean marketplace model, does it have the assumptions for service-based marketplace business users? Yes, it does. I think yes, it does. Yeah. It does have a few. Ed, if you're still pre-launch, isn't our 2-year revenue forecast just an estimate? It's always an estimate. I mean, forecasts are always an estimate. I mean, they can get very accurate when you're using historicals to estimate, right, rather than just imagining numbers. Then those are become pretty accurate. But yeah, they're always going to be an estimate. That's why, valuing a business just on its financial model is tricky. That's not the only variable, is what I'm trying to say. How likely is it that this business succeeds, which is also a very subjective question based on the founder's experience. That's also coming into play. I don't want to leave you hanging, Eric. It's about some. You said some app I'm trying to create, but I'm after finding the right investors I can trust has become a problem. I will glad if you can help me on this. Yeah, I mean, maybe book some time with me, Eric. You can do that if through the platform, through Slidebean. Happy to discuss. I see more WAP hype. Will the SaaS financial model be accurate for a business that consumes its own product? How will that look like? No, I don't. Consumes its own product? I don't know what you mean by that, man. I'm sorry. Okay. Nikita, are all the templates included in bootcamp participants, or just a SaaS template? Yep. Bootcamp includes all the templates. That's a good question. So if you any of the and that makes it such a great deal if you think about it. I don't want to be salesy, but if you want to do like the bootcamp gives you access to all the templates, and it's 99 for all the templates. So that way, you can find the one that works and generate them as many times as you want. So yeah. Galiwango. So this is Hakeem. For users only with a few units, a flat fee would be feasible. However, for those with more units, since it seems most customers prefer a flat fee, I wanted to explore if it's a viable option. We are failing to decide when we end up losing some customers. Yeah, I mean, that's sounds like a financial question that, I mean, it's a question that a spreadsheet can answer. Pedro, does Slidebean help companies with finding investors? Does it offer us any service like this? We have an investor finder. Important disclaimer, it's like essentially what we do all the time is we crawl the web to find investors and we kind of sort them by industry or by stage. So we have a tool that does that. It's called our investor finder. You can find it online. We don't do introductions to these investors because that would be a bit of a conflict of interest. So very much in finding them, like scraping the web for you. Which is half the work, maybe a quarter of the work, but yeah, progress. Okay, and the last one I see you, Heather. Crowd Cruiser is a service-based, then we have user team to build a pitch deck. I need to make adjustments to the financial workbook to be reflected into the pitch deck. How do you go about getting financials changed? Heather, I remember you. Yeah, we've chatted, Heather, hopefully. I mean, normally our subscription, our $199 a month subscription includes a certain set of changes every month, or you can just book our team on an hourly basis, depending on how many changes you need. But you know where to find us. I hope I probably have my email. I'll have my team follow up. Maybe that's better. But yeah, happy to help again, Heather. I'll say, well, Mike, maybe you're the last one. Avichal says that I look like The Weeknd. I've gotten that before, and I will take it as a compliment today. Last question. Well, Mike, investment question. Have you ever dealt or heard of startups that after seed rounds doing next round buybacks through private equity funds? I've seen it. It's usually at pre-seed, sorry, at seed, is an unnecessary complication, right? So normally what you want to do is work work as hard as possible, as fast as possible in growing your revenue, your user base, and then doing stock buybacks is a distraction. I think that at certain stages, when you're a Series C company and you're dealing with $100 million valuations, then the money that you would make from buybacks is not irrelevant. And then the money that you have to pay for the consulting and the private equity work and the paperwork is small compared to what you do. But at seed, I mean, sounds like a bit of an overkill. All right, guys, I have to run. I have to get on my next one. But I hope to see some of you on the bootcamp next week. Yeah, hope to see some of you guys on the bootcamp next week. We'll crunch at financial models. Hope that the templates are useful. Hope that the videos are useful. We have a bunch of other free materials on the YouTube channel. So you want to, if you're on YouTube, you already know. But if you're not, check out the Startup Club channel on YouTube. That's where the recording of this session is going to live. We'll catch you in the next one.